What's up, friends? Welcome back to another episode at the Rising Author Experience. I'm here with a friend who we just kind of crossed paths on LinkedIn and decided to want to hop on an episode because she's bringing something kind of fresh to the table. Anna Delvey is an award-winning author and an ex-Silicon Valley pro. She's an AI-certified book coach, pioneering the future of writing. She created the first AI novel development framework recognized by the U.S. Copyright Office, which is amazing. Proving AI empowers writers, and as a founder, as a founder of the Novelist Studio, she helps first-time authors turn ideas into books while keeping full copyright control. Anna, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you. I'm really excited to talk about all this stuff because the world of AI, writing something creative in the novel world, and is that stuff going to be stolen? And how do I actually do this? Am I going to be a legit author? And you're here to help me answer those questions. But yeah, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I've been seeing you on LinkedIn and I just feel kind of starstruck that I'm here at your podcast.
Oh, get out. Starstruck. I don't know about all that. Get out of here. No, I'm glad we crossed paths. And I found your stuff pretty interesting because, we are at this like new sort of frontier, right? With AI being, a predominant tool in our world. And I think the way it's approaching publishing is, people can call it dangerous, people can call it fake, people can call it legit, people can call it like I can't do my work without this. But I'm excited to have you on because I really want your intake about how you approach AI and creative writing and what started all this for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, it's kind of one of those things that just happened. I have a creative writing degree. I went to school and I got my bachelor's in creative writing. That's what I did when I was going to the university. And I always wanted to be a writer. I thought that's what I was going to do. And I accidentally fell into a technology role in a great company. And then it was suddenly I had the golden handcuffs on, right? And it was really, really hard to leave that job and go and try to pursue being a writer. So, but what I did though is I continued to write, even though I was working a 9 to 5, and I got a couple of books published. I won some awards. And as I kept writing and doing my 9 to 5 job, then generative AI made it on the scene in October 2022. And I quickly realized that the writing world, the creative writing world, was divided into two very distinct buckets. And I'm sure that you've run into this. It's the traditional writers that have creative writing degrees or have been writing with this particular methodology for many years. And they don't want anything to do with AI because, quite frankly, a lot of them don't understand how to use the tool. And there's a lot of scary headlines out there, like, is AI going to steal my novel, right? And we're going to unpack some of those today in the show. But so when generative AI made it on the scene, I saw this really great opportunity to say, hey, there's these two buckets, anti-AI or the writers that are like, I've never written a book and I'm just going to write an entire book with AI, right? So there's that bucket, but there was a missing piece in the middle, which was, hey, you can leverage this super powerful tool and not have it write the book for you, right? So a lot of people didn't understand that piece, that there was a middle ground, and that's what I developed.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I love that you like sort of saw the opportunity, jumped right in and said, you know what? And I feel like with every technology, there's always like the divide, right? Of like, should we jump in this technology or should we adopt it or not? And there's always a fear with any new technology, right? I'm sure at some point there was a fear with like computers from typewriters, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, right? Or from radio to television, television to internet, right? There's always this like leap of, all right, well, now we're going to adopt this new thing. So for you, when you saw that opportunity and you jumped in, especially for creatives who are like, you know what, here's a tool, I've had this idea, and there's just a couple of kinks, maybe the story outline or the characters, I just don't have fully developed. Can you walk me through when people work with you, as a book coach and you help them use or understand AI and how to use it better, um, can you tell me about maybe like the question of that I know emerges a lot, is AI going to steal my novel? Like I feel like that's stealing my
Yeah,
creativity. Is this thing going to encroach on that?
yeah. Let's come back to how writing is changing, right? But let me answer
Yeah,
that question first. So
yeah.
what I get a lot is, "Hey Anna, is AI going to steal my novel?" Right? And that's a common misconception, and it's okay. It's a new technology. A lot of people don't understand how it works. But when you see the headlines of all these authors, ChatGPT stole 204 books from Nora Roberts, right? That's a sensationalized headline. And if we really unpack it, what does that really mean? Well, here's what it really means, okay?
Mm,
So OpenAI used a ton of content to train their model, which I like to call the robot librarian, right? So ChatGPT is like a robot librarian, and ChatGPT learned how to talk by reading all these books. Now, the authors didn't get compensated outside of the title of the book, and OpenAI violated the law of fair use, which states, hey, you can use copyrighted material to teach in a class, to quote, to use as a quote, but you cannot make money from copyrighted material. Of course, OpenAI made $3 billion last year, and they have 400 million weekly active users. So, yeah, they made some money. Okay. They made some money. And the authors didn't get compensated. And this is what that headline is about. Now, I will say
mm,
this, the robot librarian, right? ChatGPT, all the large language models, it doesn't remember word for word what it reads. It cannot duplicate
mm,
something, right? It just read books to learn how to talk. That's all it did, right? And
mm,
even now we have publishing houses. I think it's HarperCollins that is already opting in writers, right? So you can opt in for an additional $3,000 or $5,000 on your contract when you're going to get a book published, to let the robot librarian read your book and get trained on it, right? It's not going to remember word for word, but now the authors have an option to do that or not. So, this fear
mm,
that AI is stealing your novel, it's just really a sensationalized headline. And when we unpack it the
mm.
way that I just did, now we really understand it.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I like
Mhm.
that. Can you go dive back into how writing is changing? What do you mean by that?
Yes, I think that the way that we write is changing. So as a fiction writer, and even for nonfiction writers, you typically do an outline, right? Nonfiction is a little bit less complicated than crafting a novel, because but it has a lot of the same elements. You still have to do an outline, you still have to figure out what you want to say, right? But when you're writing a novel, typically there's two types of writers. There are the pantsers that they just do discovery drafts. And if you're a pantser and you're out there listening to this, I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. I have been both. I have been a pantser and I have been a plotter, somebody that outlines. And I got to say that when you outline a book, any book, you're going to write a less messy first draft, full stop. And
Mm,
when you're crafting a novel, there's all these things that you have to do. You have to outline it. You have to figure out what the tentpole scenes that are going to carry the plot, right? They're going to create that conflict. What are those tentpole scenes? Who are all my characters? How do they talk? What do they wear? What are their traits? What's their backstory, right? It is an enormous amount of novel preparation that happens when you're writing a fiction novel that could take up to 2 months to do this, right? This is part of writing a novel. With the tools that I have built and with the framework that I have built, it actually enables my students to outline their entire novel and have these very rich scenes that they can develop and have these very rich character profiles. And all this happens in 60 minutes. And it is all the author's idea. It is not AI's idea. This is the author has to craft these certain prompts to get the output for their novel.
mm,
And it's so now, before the writer had to spend 2 months doing that and then they had to start writing. Well, now the way that it's changing is you have all this, right? You have your outline, you have all your character profiles, And now what I tell my students is sit with it. You got to study it. You got to internalize the characters really well so that when you sit down on the page and start writing, it comes naturally to you. So it's almost like you're outlining your novel preparation, doing novel preparation, you're studying that, which is something we didn't do before, and then you start drafting.
Right. Right. Wow. That's, I mean, again, here's a tool that'll come in and support you in so many ways. Here's a pen that can help you write. Here's a typewriter. Here's a computer. And then now here's something, now here's something that can help you like really think through this character and how they talk and what they're wearing and what they're, all these beautiful elements that I feel like you may have an understanding of how you're going to tell the story, but all these like really deep and insightful things that you want this character to have, but there's something that can help you say, why don't they have blue jeans instead of this? You're like, oh, okay, well, let's just go with that. Like I just feel like it's like an assistant helping you craft the story. Okay, so now the other question that I'm sure you get, which understandably so, again, it's kind of like we're debunking myths here, right? And for our audience out there, we are going to do a little bit of a demo of how Anna does this with her clients and kind of setting up a scene, which is really cool. I kind of want this demo to just kind of frame and, again, debunk a lot of the myths that are probably happening in your head right now. So, there's this thing where it's like, if I use AI, if I'm writing my post on LinkedIn and I use AI, or if I'm writing my scene, or if I'm writing my book, am I a real writer if I use AI? What's your take on that?
This is such a common misconception too, and there's a lot of writers shaming writers, and this has got to stop. Okay, a lot of writers shaming writers, and so what happens is we need to understand the difference between AI generated and AI assisted. Okay, so there's tools out there, and I'm sure that your listeners have seen them pop up in their feed. Hey, write a book in an hour and put it up on Amazon, right? That's an AI generated book. And that just means that they prompted you through a few things and the AI wrote the book. Okay, so this is very common. And what happens is you can certainly put that book up on the marketplace, but you have to disclose, according to KDP guidelines, you have to disclose that it was AI generated. And it's not copyrightable. So if somebody writes a similar book, and then let's say that it goes to film and you wrote a very similar book, now there's these copyright wars, right? Hey, it's my book. No, it's my book, right? So that's really where this, am I a real writer if I use AI? Because you can't copyright AI generated material, right? But when you use AI as an assistant to cut out outlining, novel preparation, and all the things that we just discussed, KDP says it right there on their publishing guidelines. And this is also in line with the US copyright guidelines. We don't care if you use AI to organize your ideas. We don't care even if you use AI to edit your drafts, right? AI can be a great editor, right? But you got to come up with the material yourself. You have to use AI to organize your ideas, and then you actually write the draft, and then you can use AI to polish. So this whole like, oh, I'm not a real writer if I use AI. Well, guess what? You that's still your work. And not only that, people think that AI is as easy as I'm going to press a button and something magical is going to happen. No. I mean, it takes an enormous amount of understanding of this model, how to train it, how to position it, how you're going to, what project files you want to develop in there. It takes time. It's not just like, oh, I'm lazy. In fact, I get a lot of, and this is what I say about writers shaming writers. I get a lot of, you're not a real writer. It's so lazy. You know what is lazy? What's lazy is not learning this new tool that's going to revolutionize the way that we write. We need to usher writers into the next golden era of literature. And this is how it's going to be done.
Wow, well said. You speak with such passion, and I appreciate that, because here's the thing about new technology, right? Is that there's always friction. There's always friction, so much so that It seems like you got kicked out of a Facebook group for talking about AI. Like,
Yes.
talk about shaming and disrespecting one another. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, let me tell you that story. It's incredible. So I was running this free master class, and the master class was about debunking AI and all the myths, and really sort of educating. It was all about educating, and it was a free master class. And I announced it in this group of 600,000 women writers and editors. It's a worldwide Facebook group, and I got to tell you, I got so many personal attacks, so many personal attacks. In
Wow.
30 minutes, I had 111 personal attacks. I'm talking
Wow.
about people going to my website, posting things from my website on the feed, like trying to, ridiculize me or tell me that I didn't know what I was talking
Mm,
about, and that this is horrible and how I could be talking about this. So much so that
mm.
the admin, the Facebook group admin said, Anna, I have to take down your post. I'm sorry, I can't deal with so many complaints. I just can't do it. So and then this happened a couple of more times in other groups, and it's just
See that?
incredible to me that people just want to bury their heads in the sand, and they don't want to take a minute to understand how this technology can revolutionize the way that they work.
Yeah.
It's not going
It's
anywhere.
incredible.
Spoiler
No,
alert.
it's definitely not going anywhere. And I think, it just kind of goes along the lines of like, we fear what we don't understand, right?
Mhm.
And I think, in my marketing work specifically, like, I tell people like, you don't specifically understand marketing, and that's okay, but you market yourself every day, right? Like the way you speak to your spouse, the way everything is about likability so that you can create a magnet to have people around you. It's the same
Mhm.
thing about your product or service or whatever. But the thing is when you don't understand it, you're going to fear it. And fear creates this immediate reaction. And typically, sadly, in our world today, it's like, it's not just a reaction like, oh, that's cool that you do that. I'm not interested. It's more like, let me throw gasoline and fire at you and like burn this thing down, right? Like, I'm so resistant to this
Right.
that I can't comprehend it, right? Nor do I want it. And it's like, that's that's not how humanity has evolved. That's just not how it is. And it's like you can keep ignoring it, but there's a group of people that are going to go in that direction, and I promise you, down this direction, there's a mixture. It's like it's the whole idea. You can't beat them, join them. And for me, I just think like, again, it's just a tool. And at first, when I didn't understand it, I'm like, "Ooh, this is going to be actually really good for my spelling and grammar and all the stuff that I'm not great at." Like I was in ESL. I don't know about you, but like, and I'm not from America. Like I didn't grow up. I didn't know. My parents didn't know English. So like
Mhm.
for me, I'm like, oh, this is great because this is opening up a door for me where, yeah, I can work on my next book. I can work on my things. I can write things a little bit better. I can tell it to like refine the words that I'm trying to articulate or express something in a beautiful way, without stressing about it. Because usually writing used to stress me out because I grew up a graphic artist. So now I can be a little bit better with my writing. I can share my wisdom. I can share my expertise. I can show up on LinkedIn more. I can show up on my blog or newsletter, right? I can leverage this tool to help me do the thing that I want. And I really wanted to harp on that a little bit because we have to understand what we fear
Mhm.
in order to remove the fear and say, okay, now I can make the choice whether I like it or not,
And
but at least
educated
understand
critical
it.
thinking skills, exactly. You got to understand it before you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
it's going to steal your novel. I'm not a real writer. And
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
even very famous writers like Hugh Howley and Andy Weir, and even Joanna Penn from the Creative Penn, they're already using AI as an assistant, or they sponsor it. They are
Right.
on the side of, yes,
Yeah.
use the tools, write the book, use the tools,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Get your
all about
creative thing out
this.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a really understanding about AI generated and AI assisted, and what is the difference there, right?
Yeah. It's powerful. Okay. So tell me a little bit about this masterclass that you keep getting kicked out of groups for, and you're offering it to our viewers today. But tell me a little bit about the masterclass. What is involved in it, and how can people check it out? I'm going to put it here in the in our chat.
Yeah, it's a free masterclass. It's about 45 minutes, and I really go more in depth for the topics that we have discussed here. And I do a more in-depth demo that I'm going to do here today. So that's why you want to check it out, because and I use real comments from folks in Facebook and the stuff that is going around and all the fear mongering. So it's pretty entertaining, and it really is going to give you a really great understanding on how not to fear the use of generative AI.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, I think I'm ready for this demo. Only if you are, though. I think I definitely want to check out like how to apply this. I'm just interested for me. I may have a novel in me, which I think is actually maybe not a novel, more like a theater show. And I've had this idea just like bouncing around. I'm not going to share what it is, just FYI. But I've had this idea. Let's just say it's Middle Eastern. But I've had this idea for quite some time in my head. And I'm actually really interested in what you're about to show to maybe flush out this idea a little bit more. So, I'll pause this for a second, and you can pull up your demo, and then let's get to it. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So before we jump into the demo, let me just set the stage a little bit. So this is a demo, a story that I use called Wings of Desire, and it's just a demo story that I use, and it's a psychological drama in the style of Little Fires Everywhere, or something written by Leanne Moriarty. And basically, it's this woman that's in her late 40s, and she's about to be an empty nester. She's always been a stay-at-home parent. Her husband is a pilot and has been for many years, and he's always traveling, and their relationship is starting to fall apart. And but he's also very controlling still. And so there's this really handsome carpenter that moves in next door, and it completely turns her life around, right? Like, what is she going to do now? She's got to really make a decision if she's going to go for this affair or not. And then there's also the subplot of the story is that there's a neighbor that really doesn't like her, and she wants to try to anything for this woman's downfall, right? And she's got a bunch of secrets of her own. So I wanted to set the stage for that, because I've already trained ChatGPT using my model that I built. My framework, I've already trained it, and it knows all these details. So now I want to start outlining the first scene. And usually what I tell my students to do is use 3 acts and have 15 scenes, 5 scenes on each act, so that you can develop, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen.
Yeah, let's do it. This is cool. Also, this sounds juicy. I'm ready.
Okay, so first I want to show, can you see my screen already?
Yep.
So this is the prompt that I have crafted.
Go ahead and zoom in real quick, Anna, on your screen. Just to zoom in on that a little bit more, if you can.
I don't know if I can.
It's okay if you can. I mean, I can see it and everything. So.
Or maybe what I could do.
But just for our viewers.
Here. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so this is the prompt for the first scene. I'm going to work with ChatGPT as my creative ally, and I'm going to ask it to develop a scene for me that I can write that's very juicy, right? And it's going to be my first scene. And by the way, my entire methodology that I built is grounded on traditional craft methodology. So you're going to find all your conflict, your tentpole scenes, all that great stuff that we had to do manually before. Okay, so this is the prompt. Describe a moment that introduces our protagonist. By the way, her name is Lila, and their current life. What does their everyday world look like? Focus on showing the broader setting, tone, and themes of the story. Highlight key visual or sensory details to give the reader a vivid snapshot of the protagonist's world before the main conflict begins. Begin with an interesting scene that will engage the reader immediately, using tension, curiosity, or a sense of foreboding to make the mundane feel compelling and irresistible. while staying true to the tone and conventions of the stated genre. Okay. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab that. And this is my Wings of Desire project in my ChatGPT. And I'm just going to go like this. And it's going to come back with my opening scene for my novel.
Beautiful.
So as you can see here, it says, here's a scene that you can develop. Lila Carson, a woman trapped in a picture-perfect yet suffocating existence, prepares for another evening of performing her role as the ideal wife, right? So it is already giving you some ideas. And the setting, what can the setting look like? And maybe the setting is a wealthy lakeside suburb in the early 2000s. The setting is a meticulously maintained home with polished hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows. Now, I want to call this out because if you are a creative writer, writing setting is a pain in the butt, because when you're actually writing your novel, you're like, okay, now I gotta like pull up what a potential place could look like. And let's see if I could, call out the words. It's going to have a chandelier. It's going to have you got to make it up on the fly. But here it's already giving you a lot of ideas that you can pull from and build on. It's even giving you the 5 senses, which is something that right? Like the sense of the polish, the lemon polish lingers, right? So it's already telling you what the setting could look like. Then here's the deal. When we build scenes in creative writing, the scene has to have a beginning, middle, end, and a payoff. It has to feel very rich. That's already all built into my methodology, right? So the significant reaction that the main character can have. Lila places the final hydrangea in the vase, her hands trembling, a subtle but telling crack in her carefully curated exterior, right? So it's giving you all of these little things that you can do, right? Lila forces a smile, playing the part, but Sophie, that's her daughter, sees through it. So, and then emotional reactions that your character have in that scene, right? Her unease heightens as Eric, her husband, laughs on the phone, a sound that she once loved but now resents, right? It's just great because now I have all these ideas that I can go in and develop. And if I write a 2,500 word scene that is based on my idea that I trained this model on, and I developed that draft, how is that not my book? It's my book. All I'm doing is
100%.
GPT to organize my ideas. And I'll just close with this.
Well,
you have a question?
Well, I was going to say, like, most, I guess, famous authors, big time authors, they have research assistants. Like, literally to like to get research to maybe not necessarily maybe, okay, here's a research thing. Like, if I was writing this, right, and I'm thinking like, okay, how do I set up like what their house looks like? Well, maybe I'm looking through magazines, or maybe I'm looking through construction, whatever it is, right? Maybe this morning I was at the coffee shop and I did smell the lemon thing. Like, it's still pulling from real life. It's just bringing it to me, and you're getting that assistant. If this assistant was a real person and you said, here's your homework, they still have to go and create all of this from like a day's worth of work, right?
Exactly.
So the fact that it's $20 a month is a steal.
It's great. And all you gotta do is toggle off. You go to settings, right? Settings, you go to data controls, and just toggle off improve the model for everyone if you want extra privacy. Even if you don't have this toggled off, it's not going to remember word for word, right? But just for extra privacy, toggle it off and you're good to go.
That's beautiful. So
yeah,
cool.
And then the subplot tie-in, it even gives you the subplot tie-in. And this one is around her daughter. I thought it was going to bring up the neighbor, but it's very comprehensive. Now, imagine having 15 scenes to develop with this kind of detail, and your research assistant was $20 a month. Yeah.
I mean, this would take, obviously, it would take a few hours as opposed to a few months, which helps you craft and create and get to the thing that you actually want to do, which is develop the idea, write the damn book, write the chapter, write the book, create the character, and, develop it, put it out in the world and share it. And what do writers want to do? They want to write. Like, what are we trying to do? We're trying to create. And, you know, like I do oil painting. Like I love oil painting. I learned it from my father.
Awesome.
And guess what? There's a tool. The oil painting takes forever to dry. I don't know if you've ever oil painted or not. Unlike acrylic, which dries really fast,
Uh-huh.
oil paint takes forever. So there's a compound, like it's an oil, that you can mix with the paints, and it makes it dry over a span of 2 days as opposed to like 2 weeks, right? So, and that speeds it up just enough so that you can add the layers as you need. That's a tool. It's not
Exactly.
breaking the rules. It's stretching. It's taking those rules of oil painting and bending them to the way I want to create, right? And I think this is the same. It's literally, again, even if I was a big time artist and I was painting the Sistine Chapel, I would probably have a few assistants bringing me paintbrushes and paints and mixing colors and doing the tedious things so that I could do the thing that I'm great at, right? Like,
Exactly.
um, look, at
Great
the end of the
analogy.
day, a tool is a tool. And the day that you open up ChatGPT and you say, hey, I want to write a book about this lady, and that's all you give it, and it writes this completely whatever, I'm pretty sure even if it does that, you're
It
still going to
doesn't
be like, that's not, yeah, right. But I'm just saying, like, at some point, even if it were to do that, it's still probably not going to be the story you would want to write. Again,
exactly.
you are a key component to what you're writing. And I agree with you. Again, I use ChatGPT. I use Claude. I've used a lot of different um, avenues to help me write my newsletters, help me write my LinkedIn posts, help me write, hell, even emails, right? Like, to be honest with you, I've put my recent book that I'm working on, I've put a few chapters in there to help me edit and refine a few things, and it's
Mhm.
pretty good. It's pretty damn good. My
It is.
my book is kind of on the back burner right now because, you know, life things are happening, but like, but it is a powerful tool. So I really appreciate you sharing sort of the behind the veil of like how
Mhm.
that works. And thank you for the demo. I was really excited when you emailed me and were like, I want to do a demo. Like, oh my God, this is even better. This is great. Yeah, I love
Awesome.
that. So when you do that demo for people, or when people go through your masterclass, the free masterclass that you're offering, which
Mhm.
thank you for that. I'm going to actually put it back up here. When people go through that and kind of see your perspective, what happens then? What happens next? What do they usually do afterwards?
Yeah, I have to say that people are just completely blown away because I've debunked everything and they're like, oh my goodness, I have this tool that can actually put me 3D inside of my novel. And that's what my students tell me. They come to me with an
Wow.
idea for a book that they've had in their heart for a long time. Even writers that have written multiple drafts that didn't get picked up by traditional publishing. And they really want to approach writing a novel, which is a very complex thing to do in a more organized manner. And when they start using my framework, they're just completely blown away. And I mean, talk about wanting to sit down and write, because you have to write the draft, right? You get all the organization stuff, and now you have these characters in 3D living around you. You got this great outline. Now you got to draft it, right? So what's happening is that my students are actually finishing their first drafts, a less messy first draft in 90 days, which is
Wow.
incredible,
Unheard
right?
of. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're excited about writing. They're excited about sitting down and writing. I have this one woman in my studio right now, and I am so excited about her novel. So excited. I really think she's going to be the next J.K. Rowling. Like, and you know, she's
Wow.
one of those people that was a talented writer, but it's a complex thing. And she has kids, and she has a husband, and she has the aging parents, and you know the whole bit, right? So not everybody's got the luxury to be a full-time writer and wake up and write 5 hours a day, right? If we have these great organizational tools, use them.
Hmm. So powerful. God, you speak with so much passion.
I
I love it so much. So
love this
tell
stuff.
me a little bit more. Yeah, no, this is great. So tell me a little bit more about when people hire you, go to your website, hire you to help them, you know, flesh out their idea. Obviously, you got the tools, you show them how to use the tools, all that good stuff. You know, I know you're kind of like a book coach, but tell me more about your services and sort of what you offer novelists and creatives who want to write.
Yeah, so what I do is I do book intensives, and my book intensives include we're going to set you up with you're going to become a ChatGPT master user. I'm going to teach you exactly how to use ChatGPT for creative writing without it taking over, right? Which is what
Hmm.
happens to a lot of people. They're like, I started using this and now it's like writing for me. So I teach you how to do that. I give you my entire novel development framework. So you're going to have your entire novel outlined, all your characters. You're going to have your entire one-page summary, your book blurb, your one-liner to say at parties. Because if you're a writer and anybody asks you what book
Mm.
you're writing, you're like, oh, it's about this woman that she went
And
to
it goes on and
Mexico,
on and on.
and it's like and then that eats at your self-esteem as a writer because you're like, oh my God, I just sounded like a total like dummy. I didn't even know what my book was about or how to say it succinctly, right? So it does all those
Yes.
things for you. And then usually I do an intensive that's an 8 week, a week long intensive. And then we just kind of make sure that we set you up with all of that stuff for your novel. We set you up with ChatGPT, and I teach you and I walk you on how to do that, right? So I do group coaching, and if you want to get on the wait list for my upcoming book intensive, I'm in the middle of a cohort right now. You can always get on the wait list on my website.
That's amazing. I love that so much. Look at you. You already got a wait list. This is how amazing this is. This is incredible. How cool. Okay. So do you then, I'm just curious to know, like, what happens after that? So now I got my book. I've written it. Everything's good. I went through your process. I wrote my book. I got it. It's done. What happens next? Do you help them with publishing? Do you connect them with publishers? Like any of that kind of stuff? Or are they kind of on their own? Like marketing? What happens next? I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
So yeah. So typically what I do is I can advise them on the paths. Like if they want to go traditional, I know all about how to do that, self-publishing, right? But I don't do any marketing or book publishing. I would probably
Sure.
point them to somebody like you, right? To do well, the author
Perfect.
marketing, for example, a lot of them have to get still their website set up, which by the way, if you're an author or an aspiring writer, please get your website done before you finish the book. Like I just have to say that, and get a newsletter
I'm gonna
because
slap mine in here. There we go.
yeah, you have to, because guys, you got to start building your readership before you finish the book. Okay, this is a very highly competitive market. And if you have somebody that can really help you set up your online persona, and doing a newsletter is a great way to do it too, and having your online persona, do that before. Plus, it's going to get you so excited to reach that finish line.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. I think that applies for really authors, writers, nonfiction, novelists, whatever. Like people are gonna Google you, people are gonna chat GPT you, they're gonna like try to like know who you are, where you're from, what you're doing. They're gonna
Mhm.
they want to know why I should you know, like just they're gonna want to know about you. A lot of creatives are not all, but many are
Many.
introverts, right?
Yes.
Are introverts. And they have a hard time with feeling like they have to sell themselves. And I say,
Hmm.
look, it's not about selling yourself. It's about sharing your art, sharing creativity. You are the messenger of your message, whatever that message is. And you have to kind of bear what comes the territory. And so the tools that help you with that are, of course, understanding how to develop an audience or an audience that already exists that you can tap into. There's one. Of course, you got to have some sort of online presence, like a website that houses all these things. So when these opportunities come up, or when Oprah calls, or you get on
Right.
a podcast like this, you can house that stuff there so people can see, like, wow, this person is here and there, and they got press, and they have a blog, and they're telling me what's coming next, and they're telling me a little bit about their new book, and there's a reason to follow the person. And we're in a social media era. We don't just promote books via Oprah anymore. We promote books on TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube and podcasts. Like there's so many different ways. There are a lot less gatekeepers. And if there is a gatekeeper at any one place, be aware. Like that's silly. And I think you can take advantage of all these opportunities as an author. This is why I do author marketing. Because if you do book marketing, then you're just kind of marketing that book. To where I look at it, the book should be marketing you and what you're going to do next. This is why the J.K. Rowling and all the
Mhm.
amazing people that I'm sure you have all heard of, right? You follow them. You want to know what happens in their life. You want to know what's going on with it, who they interviewed next, and you're kind of following their journey as a writer. And then they, release these creative projects that you get to be a part of. Same thing with Beyonce, same thing with Jay-Z, same thing with Kendrick Lamar, right? You follow the person, and then they release these creative projects that you get to, partake in, and however that is, right?
Mhm.
So I think an online presence is extremely powerful. I think content doesn't have to be from your book, doesn't have to be about your book. It could be about documenting the process of what you're doing, what you're up to, what you're stuck, how powerful this new tool is, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
It's a cool way to follow you. It's a cool way to know what you're up to. And so when your book does come out, it's exciting for not only you, but everyone else who's been following you. So that's my spiel on marketing, of course. But I love what you're doing. I love that you're really helping people see this tool in a new light that gets them thinking in the right way. I love that you were first to basically copyright how you do this. I think that's amazing. So good on you for like having the foresight. And it's like, if this person has the foresight to do that, imagine what she could do with your novel and help you with. So if you're out there and you're writing a novel or working on one and you're stuck and you don't know what to do and you're sort of anti ChatGPT, like get with the program, man. You gotta like look at this new stuff in a new way. She just demoed exactly how this is done, and it's amazing. It didn't steal anything. It didn't use anything that's not. It's helping you create something awesome. So yeah, go follow Anna right now. Do yourself a favor. Go check out her free masterclass and check out her studio. Sign up for her next thing. I promise you, it sounds like it's going to be an epic thing for you. Anna, anything else you want to add?
It was so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure, my friend. Is that your book back there? Push,
Those
tumble,
were a
fall.
couple of my earlier books before
Yeah.
ChatGPT. Yes. And,
Okay.
and before I was wise enough to know that I needed somebody to do my author marketing. So I wish I
Yeah,
would have
that's
known that
okay.
back
We all
then.
start somewhere. That's awesome. Very cool. Well, Anna, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for bringing your passion and your energy today. I'm grateful to have met and crossed paths with you, and I can't wait to follow you for more insights. Thanks again.